I've seen agencies sell where they have a book of 20 big clients and the agency owner leaves and it's like 10 or 15 of the clients want to go with them. And that's challenging, right? To see that it was more about people's relationship with that strategist, that person that comes in with the big ideas, the big thoughts. Okay, if that person's leaving, what's kind of left? Oh, we just have some technicians.
Welcome to the Happy Clients Podcast, brought to you by Dot & Company. Whether you're a virtual assistant, an agency owner, or a client-facing account manager, we all deal with clients. Lucky for you, client management is what we do best. Now, let's dig in, chat cam life, and have some fun along the way. Here's to Happy Clients.
E2M is a proud sponsor of the Happy Clients Podcast. If you're running a digital agency, you know the hardest part isn't getting clients. It's delivering consistently without burning out your team or hurting margins. E2M helps agencies scale confidently as a behind-the-scenes, white-label fulfillment partner. From web development and SEO to paid media, US-based content, e-commerce, and even AI, they plug into your agency so your clients get great results under your brand. No freelancers, no chaos, just reliable delivery that helps you keep clients happy and growing. Find out how E2M can support your agency at e2msolutions.com/dot. Today on the Happy Clients Podcast, we are pulling back the curtain on a big new chapter here at Dot & Co. And I'm joined by Brent Weaver, who is the CEO of E2M and now Dot & Co. So welcome, Brent, to the show.
Yeah, great to be here.
Awesome. So today we're going to be talking about the big why behind this acquisition, E2M buying Dot & Company, and what this means for not just our clients, not just our team members, but really our agency industry as a whole and where we are headed together. And so if you've ever been curious about how agency acquisitions really go down, we're gonna show you what really happens behind the curtain.
Let's do it.
As much as we can.
Yeah.
So let's do it. Cool. Well, welcome to the show, Brent. Excited to dig in. First, I want to hear from your perspective, what first attracted you to Dot & Co. and what kind of stood out from your perspective?
Yeah, I think Dot & Co. has truly been in a category of one. I haven't seen very many other similar offerings, and it's a real pain point for agencies to do account management effectively. It's a big challenge for them to get out of that seat themselves. A lot of small agencies, the owner starts, they're the account manager. And so they kind of set this bar of excellence of what they expect out of that seat. And I think they struggle to bring on people into their business to where they can really trust them to hand over those client relationships to them. And I think seeing that Dot & Co. has solved that problem for agencies is something that was very attractive to E2M. Because it's, as you know, you've spent the better part of the last 8 years creating the service and scaling the service. It's a very difficult service to be able to implement into a business and also to master. And I think we saw that with Dot & Co. And that was probably the biggest thing that really attracted us to the value proposition to start. And then, of course, there's an amazing brand. There's an amazing culture. I think you all have done a great job at getting great reach across the market. And so I think a lot of people know who Dot & Co. is. It's not just Taylor McMaster. So I think there was a lot of different factors, but that would probably be the biggest ones.
Mm-hmm. And how do you see the complement between Dot and E2M on a grander scale, like where we're going?
Yeah, look, our goal is to help agency owners grow confidently and to profitably grow confidently. And when we're working with, we're a white label digital agencies. So we're doing websites, we're doing pay-per-click, we're doing SEO, we're doing AI services. And when we're working with clients, a lot of times, we are working with the agency owner as kind of the head project manager or account manager within their business. And we can tell from our side, they're really busy. They've got a lot going on, us getting feedback, us getting project briefs, things like that. We can definitely, we really see the agency owner as being a common bottleneck. And we get the comment all the time, hey, do you guys do account management? Could you just manage my clients? Could you meet with our clients on our behalf? And at E2M, we've always kind of made this strategic decision to stay more of a behind the scenes white label provider versus being, client facing. And so we haven't really stepped into that, but we did have a lot of clients that expressed a need for that. And I think we saw Dot as an opportunity to extend that service and both improve the experience for the agency owner, really free them up to grow their business, but also I think improve the experience for their end client, because as we know, when you're a busy agency owner and you're the bottleneck, you might not be getting back to clients as fast as you could be, or maybe you're missing details. And I think those dedicated account managers can really add a lot of value to the business.
Mm-hmm. And I can speak from my side. Something that attracted me to E2M as the potential acquirer or strategic partner was that so many of our clients are always asking for fulfillment support. You know, the agency owner hires us, we're in there as their account manager, and they're saying, do you have a media buyer? Do you have a web developer you could recommend? Do you have someone who can help on the back end because I'm being sucked into that area? And so it was just this natural strategic partnership. It's like the yin to the yang, like you can't have one without the other. And so both of us being white label partners for agencies in the same, you know, geographic location really of where we're serving customers, it made so much sense. And so now I think even since we've announced the acquisition, just seeing how our clients and your clients are responding, they're like, oh, this makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And so it's really cool to see that happening in real time.
And we hoped for those, like, not to use that kind of business, like the synergies. Like we hope for those kind of cross business synergies in the acquisition process. And I think making that announcement public, it was instant. It was like, boom, like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what we wanted. Which we had surveyed our E2M clients, you know, and we had said, hey, what kinds of things would you like us to be able to offer into your business? So it was both those kind of anecdotes we'd hear from agencies, you know, from time to time, but also we did get some really good data ahead of time. And so those things I think have been backed up beautifully. But I think, you know, even if the value proposition was there, even if the cross-sell synergies were there, I think the acquisition wouldn't have made sense unless there was really similar cultures and values within the business. I think it would have been really difficult to like snap into a business that really doesn't fit culturally. And so I think, as you know, you knew Manish for a long time, I knew you for a long time, right? There was these multi-year relationships that kind of said, hey, these people are similar in values and approach to business. And I think that over everything, because of that compatibility, it made it possible.
Yeah. A lot of people are asking me, I don't know if they're asking you, but the exact timeline of how this all happened. Because when an acquisition happens, generally it's like, oh, cool. When did this start? How did this even happen? Where do you begin if you're thinking about selling or acquiring a business? Maybe we could walk through what the timeline looked like and how you went about the acquisition process, because I thought it was very seamless. Like I tell everyone, it was like seriously one of the easiest processes of my life. And all you hear from other people who've gone through this process is how hard it is and how emotionally draining it is. And I thought it was the opposite. So I'd love to kind of give a good walkthrough of kind of how this happened in the timeline.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I know you've got a screenshot of Manish reaching out to you, like the cold outreach. He reached out to you. Cold
outreach.
I actually don't remember. I know you and I probably met in 2021. Maybe it was like, maybe you came on the Digital Agency Show as a guest, or maybe I came onto your podcast, or there was some type of kind of co-marketing that was done when I was running UGurus.
I think you and I probably met on LinkedIn or something. You and I met separately from me and Manish. And Manish had reached out via LinkedIn. It was just a cold message. It was like, hey, I see we're both sponsoring the same event. Would love to chat. And I think I ignored him for a little while because I just let him simmer in my inbox while I was on my first maternity leave. And then I think after the event, finally reached out and said, okay, like let's meet, let's talk, get to know each other. We had, a virtual conversation. And then I did a E2M customer presentation. I think you still do them twice a month. Yeah. I did one with Kevin back then. And then Kushbu came on and spoke in my community. And it was just kind of like a, warm lead, if you will. We were just kind of going back and forth. And then we met in person at Jason Swink's Elevate event in Austin, Texas. For the first time we met in person.
So that would have been
that's when
2024?
2024. Yes. Yeah. April 2024. And it was at that event that I realized how similar we were, Manish and I, in terms of our values. Like him and I were like the two hanging out together the whole time. And we became fast friends. And from that, I actually went back and read our message threads a couple weeks ago, and it was very just friendly. It was like, I would check in like, hey, Manish, I was thinking of you. How are you doing? And he would do the same like every few months. And, he'd say, oh, I have this client for you. I'm going to pass over. I'd be like, awesome. Thank you so much. And we just kind of had this back and forth, great relationship. And then it was the October that we met at your event, your You Gurus event, that you invited both of us to speak. And we met back up at this event, and Manish had gone to some conference about acquisitions, I think. And he was like pumped. He was fired up. And he was telling our friend Marcel Petipa that he wanted to go through acquisition. And Marcel was like, well, Manish, Taylor, like maybe you guys, you could acquire .co. And I was like, all right, let's have a conversation about it. And so we had that first conversation. That would have been October 24. And, we kind of went through a due diligence at that time. And I had shared all of our numbers, all of our problems, all of our, everything with him, open book. And I met with him and Ronick, and we kind of went back and forth, and it just wasn't the right time. And the universe was telling us, just wait, simmer this for a minute. And then when was it that you and I and Manish had a conversation? It must have been March.
So I met with them early March, and was kind of on my way out of DigitalOcean. And so we started kind of talking ideas, and they had looked at the Dot acquisition, and they kind of like Manish presented with me like two kind of options of things that he was working on that he could potentially use like a driver or a CEO for. And one of them was like, hey, we're looking at this Dot acquisition, and the founders are going to potentially like do other things, and maybe yes, maybe no, but we need kind of a CEO to come in and drive that business. And then there was this other like AI opportunity. And then there was like the third, like, oh, and there's this other thing too, which was like become the CEO of E2M, right? And it was like, oh, that's interesting, right? And so that was like the first time I had been kind of introduced to this being a possibility. And they kind of read me into the opportunity to look it over. And we were kind of looking like, is it door number 1, door number 2, door number 3? And because we started gravitating towards me coming in as CEO of E2M, we kind of said, okay, let's meet with, Taylor and Jamie. We don't want this to go cold, but we also like, we might not have the bandwidth to take this on like all at the same time. I mean, I think in Manish's mind, we could do all of it at the same time, but I was a little bit more like, hey, let's like, this is a pretty big, like, thing to bite off for just joining and on-ramping into the overall E2M business, let alone these other things. And so I think, we kind of started thinking, okay, how would we sequence this? And yeah, I think we focused primarily on just like me joining E2M for like 3-4 months. And we also had our big Vistara event last year. And then it was like, all right, we got Vistara not out of the way, but like we successfully completed that. And then it was like, all right, what, do we pick back up the Dot conversation? And so I think, I don't know if you had checked in with me or I checked in with you. It was like, hey, how are things going? And just kind of keeping that thread alive. And then it was like, hey, are we still like serious about looking into this? And, started picking that up.
Yep. Yes. And interesting timing. And I truly believe it happened at the exact right timing it was meant to, because after we had that conversation, I went on a 6-month mat leave. So I was not thinking about much. I was gone for 6 months. And I think that also showed you, Manish, Ronick, that, okay, this business can operate without her.
Yeah.
Like she's gone. Like she's not in it. And so when we did pick up the conversation again in November, it was like, oh, you're buying a business that doesn't need Taylor anymore. So I think that was also helpful probably for you on your end of the acquisition.
Yeah. I mean, that's 100%, right? I think with service businesses in particular, when they're kind of below a certain like revenue threshold, like a lot of it's, I'm not saying that Dot was this. I think you were able to prove that it wasn't the cult of personality, but that a lot of small, I've seen agencies sell where they have a book of 20 big clients and the agency owner leaves and it's like 10 or 15 of the clients want to go with them. And that's challenging, right? To see that it was more about people's relationship with that strategist, that person that comes in with the big ideas, the big thoughts. Okay, if that person's leaving, what's kind of left? Oh, we just have some technicians, right? And I think Dot really was, you had great systems, you had a great team, and you were able to kind of prove that this could run without you. for a period of time, which is great. I think as a buyer, right? Like we're actually buying a business, not just a person.
Exactly. Yeah. So we picked up the conversation in November and we closed by the end of December.
Which is kind of crazy. It is definitely
it is crazy.
In my experience, buying and selling. I'd have to go back and do a comparison. I mean, if you look at the overall process, like from first mention of it to close, I think that's pretty typical, right? You and Manish talked maybe October of 2024 and closed by the end of 2025. So just a touch over a year from initial real serious data sharing to close. I think that seemed like a really typical cycle, but the cycle of, all right, let's do this, let's LOI to close, that was a very short timeline. I think I told our attorney that was what our schedule was, and he was like, we'll see. I'm like, no, this is it. This is the schedule. We're doing this, right? Yeah. He's like, but I'm vacationing in Vietnam. I was like, I don't care, right?
You're like, Manish's flying from India to Canada, so we're making it happen. Yeah, so 2 weeks later, Manish Ronik flew from India to Toronto. Brent came from Denver. I came from Halifax. We met for 3 days straight and just talked about everything, which was obviously a crazy emotional roller coaster, but it was very important.
Yeah,
from my perspective, to make sure that we were aligned on where the business is at and where it's going.
And I think for the most part, I mean, we kind of, before Manish and Ronik got on the plane, I think we had kind of this go no-go conversation internally. And it was is this something that we still want to do? We had gone through most of the data room and the due diligence process and kind of looked through everything. I think you and Jamie and the team that was involved in that was excellent. You can kind of see how organized a business is by how quick they can respond to due diligence. And I think within 2 days, we had pretty much 80 or 90% of diligence items were organized. And I think that's it showed us that, hey, there's not only is this business able to run without Taylor and Jamie, but, they're dotting all the I's in the right way. They're crossing all the T's. Everything's organized very well. It's just a matter of moving it from where it is today into the diligence folder, which some businesses you go in to buy them and it's they're creating all this stuff from the ground up, which is not the right time to do it. So if you are thinking of selling the business at some point in the future, right? It wouldn't be a bad idea to go to chat and just be like, hey, give me a punch list of everything that a company might ask for in due diligence. And those are the systems and processes that I'd highly recommend to or even just look at your how you organize your Google folders around your business, right? Those would be a great folder structure to start today. And say, okay, here are my business, my operating agreements and kind of business minutes. Here's my financial documents. Here's my key customer data. Here's my insurance and whatever, right? So there's 8 or 10 or 12 different categories of due diligence items. And I think you all had them, pretty much everything was just oh, let's go find that thing and put it over. And I think that made a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I will say, going through the experience with you, driving it made it so much easier. It really showed that this wasn't your first rodeo. We were just kind of following your lead. So kudos to you because you made it really easy and it was great.
Well, I've certainly been on the other side of diligence processes that were maybe less smooth. So I tried to bring some of the experience of being in kind of big corporate M&A deals and okay, cool. This is a project that needs to be managed from start to finish. We have an end date.
Yes.
We have different, milestones where we should definitely consider off ramping. I told this to Manish and Ronik. I said, let's not allow momentum to drive the decision making. It's okay if momentum drives the deadline and us completing everything on time, but it certainly shouldn't drive the decision making. We should still feel comfortable and totally okay to walk. And I think that's a really important part of any due diligence is that you actually do look at things and have a couple of points where you're hey, are we still in this? Is this what we want? And so I think we did have those checkpoints, which again, it just kind of secured our commitment to making it happen and having it go confidently versus getting cold feet at the end, right? Having really clear yes or no points versus not checking in at all and then getting all the way to the end. And then somebody has cold feet on something that showed up in early on in diligence, but it was never really raised. And so I kind of, through the process, just pushed a little bit here and there, like, hey, are we still all yeses on this? And I think that helped us to execute confidently, right? I felt like I had buy-in from our executive leadership team of this is still what we want. And so it's like, if we want it, let's go 100% towards the finish, versus I think sometimes you end up with people that get cold feet and they start sandbagging. They start taking a while to respond, or they don't they don't get things done on time. They kind of start to doubt themselves, and then, a deal falls apart because it loses that momentum. So I think it's key to have that going. And one thing I would say about you and Jamie is you all had you had the trust of the level of, we're going to do this with this company, right? There wasn't like this doubt that was driving the process. And so you were very open book with the business. And I think you trusted us to act responsibly with that data and the information. And we've certainly been involved with companies where it's so difficult, and you just kind of go, man, is there not like a foundation of trust here, or like a desire for us, and I think you both had that trust and that desire, and that made a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. What we said to each other right from the get-go was, we're not hiding anything, because we never wanted to get to the end and something shows up and it's like, oh, you didn't tell us that, or, oh, you've been hiding that this whole time. That was just not going to work for us.
Yeah.
And I think we put ourselves in your shoes, right? We were like, okay, if we were buying a business, what would we want to know? And we're like, here's everything. I don't know. What else do you want to know? We told you guys everything. So I think it just made for trust on both sides and just a smooth process. Speaking of cold feet, were you ever nervous that we were going to get cold feet?
A deal isn't done until it's done.
Yeah.
So I feel like because of the willingness and openness, it felt like that was like, you all were committed to the process, and I think that's good. I think that, you never know. I've definitely had situations where, the day of closing, it's like, it's touch and go. I didn't feel that with Dot & Co, but I think there was some times with the back and forth, right? Sometimes you there's negotiation, there's the legal points, there's what's included, what's not included, how is this going to work, how is this not going to work, right?
It's like, is this going to be a deal breaker?
Yeah,
is that going to be a deal breaker?
But you I think on the sell side, I think y'all were punctual and prompt, and so I actually don't feel like I really entered that emotional state. I think I've been in deal cycles before where sometimes it's like you ask a question or you propose language and you don't hear back for like a week or 10 days, there's like these long stretches. Like I can tell you with, when we were bought by, Cloudways, like there were certain things about like my compensation that literally were not finalized or even proposed until like a couple of days before the deal. And so there was definitely some points where I was like, is this even what I want to do? I don't even know what my role is, what I'm going to get paid. And that process was 6 months. So 6 months we went through a deal process, and I didn't know what my compensation was going to be until like 3 days before closing. It was pretty crazy. And so I didn't feel like I had that confidence. If anything, I kind of had cold feet of like, is this even what I want to do? I don't even know if this is going to work for me. It all worked out. I was taken care of and it was fine. But I think I never really doubted that you guys were gonna back out of the process. And I think that the in-person meeting really helped us to see the commitment, see that you weren't just thinking about exit, that you were also thinking about how do we transition, and then also for you, like starting to envision like what your role might look like. I think when people can envision a future together, right, then that's going to feel like, hey, this is happening, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll get into kind of the future of what we're doing together. But every time over the last 7-8 years that I thought about exiting, I always said, I'm not staying on. Like, I'm building this so that I don't have to. And I was pretty much at a point where like it was optional. Like, I think you would have bought it without me. But seeing what E2M was doing and where you were going and the waves that we would make together in the agency space, I was like, I'm going to have FOMO if I don't stay on.
You're like, oh man, this is going places. I want to hang out. Right?
I'm like, yeah, this is fun.
Yeah.
So I think that's the difference of finding a real partner versus just getting acquired and moving on. Everyone's asking me like, what's next? What business are you going to build now? And what are you doing? And I'm like, nothing. Like, this is what I want. I want to stay and like help grow, and like I'm all in. And it is not what I thought would happen when I thought about selling. So I think that's a really cool experience, and I'm very grateful that I was able to have such a positive acquisition story for myself.
Yeah. And I think too, like having that option is great. Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes when you run a business, you realize maybe there are things that don't like energize you that are a part of running that business. And, maybe it is kind of draining the battery a smidge, and you're like, well, if I took off that stuff, maybe I would be like energized still. Right. And I think that's what we've hopefully been able to create for you. I mean, time will tell. Right. Yeah. But I think is taking the business, like the day-to-day, right? I think freeing you to be able to go out there and really be a true evangelist for both Dot, but also kind of the account management movement and profession. I think you have invaluable expertise that I think more people. I think there's still work to be done there. I think you still have a little bit of that left before I'll let you off the hook.
Yes, I agree. Cool. Well, let's kind of talk about where we're going and what we're going to do in the agency space, because I feel like we're just getting started. I mean, we've both been, E2M's been in the industry for 13 years, Dot 7, 8. And I feel like we're just getting started in terms of making waves in the industry. But from your perspective, where is E2M going, and where is Dot gonna help take it to the next level?
Yeah, I mean, we really want to be like the global leader for being a platform that agencies can profitably and reliably grow their business on. And I think from day one when I joined E2M, I didn't view it just as a service, but as a platform that agencies and agency owners can actually grow a robust business in their niche, in their market, in their discipline. And that's how we definitely view the future, right? I think agencies are in more demand now than ever. And with AI and all these things, I know people think like, oh man, our agency is still going to be necessary. But I think that agencies, every time there's been a big technological innovation, whether it's the web, whether it's social, whether it's mobile, there's been this huge growth in our industry worldwide. And I think AI is going to continue that. And so we really want to be a go-to platform for agencies to build profitable and successful agencies on. And I think that account management piece was such a critical like missing part of the foundation for us, like not even like building on like cool, wings or extensions, but it was really a part of the foundation of where we see agencies get kind of stopped up and they end up hitting these like bottlenecks where their growth kind of stalls because, the agency owner can't take on new clients. They can't go hire that next critical role in their business because they're just putting out client fires every week, all week, right? I'll talk to some agency owners and they're on 20 or 30 client calls every single week. And it's like, how do you grow a business when you're on 30 customer calls every single week? Like where do we fit the sales calls in there, right? Like where do we fit the hiring calls where we're going to interview potential candidates, right? And they're not really being true CEOs in their business. And so I think Dot kind of gives this like instant kind of plug and play account manager system. And it's not really just about the account manager themselves. I think the Dot team members are like, you have the Dot gold standard of what account management looks like. But I think our vision is that we are going to build that into a really robust system. And a lot of that system already exists, but there's kind of the Dot account management team where you actually have a human that's going in, they're taking over those client calls. There's kind of the Dot way, like all of the training, the SOPs, the handbooks. A lot of agencies don't have those, right? They don't have what does an account manager do? How do we measure success? What are the systems and processes that they implement, right? So I think you literally wrote the book essentially. There's the whole the CAM Academy and all that kind of stuff, and so there's that kind of systems piece, and then we also are starting to work on the Dot CAM platform. So looking at software, looking at AI as ways to enhance and grow that role in businesses. And so that's something that we'd love to see for Dot with the agency clients is that when you hire Dot, you're not just hiring an individual, but you're hiring this whole system and ecosystem to empower that agency to continue growing. So, we just came off of a 2-day offsite. We were talking about all these, big ideas. And so I think some of it's still a little fresh, but we really have, I think, a bold vision for where this is going.
Mm-hmm. And I think that you touched on kind of some of these AI components and adding in this extra layer to the account management role, but agencies are feeling a little bit insecure with where our industry is going because of AI. You're either on the bus or you're just like watching the bus drive by. And I think what's really cool about E2M and how Dot is being integrated is that E2M is driving the bus. Like they are making the bus and they are driving the bus. And so we get to just jump on and learn and implement some of the things that they're already doing. And then all of our customers just get to benefit from that. And, the Vistara event that I'd love to talk about as well, but you are already doing all the things that agencies dream of or feel like they need to learn. And so by just tapping into the E2M knowledge base and team, I feel like it's just going to allow both of our businesses to just explode. And then that will just trickle into helping all of our agency partners that we work with and get to work with in the future. So it's really exciting.
Yeah. And I think if I'm an agency and I'm going to go hire a CAM on my own, a client account manager on my own, right? Like I have to own that full hiring process. I have to own the full leadership management accountability process on a long enough timeline, right? And team members have changing life priorities. They move on from things. They get married, have babies, right? All of the things, right? And so I think it's a real pain point for agencies to spend all this time hiring this team member, investing a lot in their knowledge base about their clients, about their systems, about their processes, and if that person ever moves on, either in a negative way, right? They end up not working out, or they find some other job, they get paid more, they level up in their career, right? The agency owner is kind of stuck holding the bag, right? Okay, I've got to do this game all over again. And I think our vision at Dot is to make that just this insanely efficient kind of plug and play, redundant, where an agency owner, if and when somebody changes in that seat, we have systems like AI powered systems, documentation powered systems, training systems, redundant people systems, where you really as a business not skipping a beat. And we think that having that in place is going to help agencies really get to that next level. And so AI can play a really critical role in that because, you can have a client dossier system, which we have internally at E2M, where we literally have a profile about all of our clients. We have all of those clients' calls, transcribed, and we have all of the key action items, right, for everything that's open and being worked on, right. All that stuff's being tracked and analyzed using our AI technology, and that really helps account managers lean into their strengths and spend more time thinking about how am I saving an agency owner time? How am I helping them to improve retention with their clients? And how am I actually helping them to grow their clients into higher spend customers, right? And that's really where we want those team members to spend their time. And so the AI tools should just be supporting that mission, not replacing anything, but supporting that mission to be even more effective. And so I think that fortunately at E2M we have some amazing AI superstars. And I mean, it's the 19th day of the month and since the acquisition, and we are going 100 miles an hour with implementing some things that we already had in place at E2M for Dot, and we think it's going to be. I'm always careful about using the word game changer, but I think it's going to have a big impact on the customer experience and on the agency market as a whole.
Absolutely. It's really cool to see. Even our leadership team and I talk about this all the time. It's we have this one thing we want to do. And before we're we need to go hire this person or we have to go find this person. And it's oh, E2M already has someone. They'll just come help us. Yep. And it's so fun to see some of those wins happening already, which is really fun. Cool. Well, Brent, let's leave it at this. If somebody's listening who's never worked with us at Dot, why should they be excited about this next chapter?
Yeah, I mean, I think if they have not yet worked with Dot, I think now's a great time. Reach out, go to dotandcompany.co. No, why would now be a great time? I mean, I think we're looking at lots of ways of taking something that's already great and making it even better. And I think what's been really cool is the whole leadership team is really excited. Like they're all bought into this process, and nobody's going like, oh man, I'm out of here. Like we've got full buy-in from the leadership team. I think when we announced this to the customers, tons of the clients like personally reached out to me and they were like, oh my gosh, this is like just what we need right when we need it. We're really excited about this as well. And so we've seen just such a really positive impact. And so I think for a lot of reasons, now is a great time. But if you're an agency owner that is struggling with account management and you're struggling with getting out of this seat yourself, then I mean, that's the thing that I would focus on the most, right? Is this the right time for your agency? Are you at that level where you've grown enough that you have a business, you have enough clients that's like, it's not just like a freelance practice, but you actually have an agency. You're managing, 20, 30, 40 clients. It's different for every agency. But if you got to that point where you're really a bottleneck, I think if you've been on the fence about reaching out to talk with Dot, I think now's a great time. I think it was a great time 2 months ago too. And I think it'll be a great time 2 months from now.
Yes, I agree. Amazing. Well, hopefully we get to have you back on the show, Brent, now that you're in the fold. But this has been such a great conversation.
You have access to my calendar now, Taylor. You could just be like, Brent on podcast.
That's how this happened. I literally added it to your calendar. Well, thank you so much. I think this answers a lot of people's questions, about the acquisition and how it happened and where we're going. And we're both equally as excited and can't wait to see where Dot and E2M take it.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to another episode of the Happy Clients Podcast, and we'll see you on the next one.
Cheers to happy clients.